The organ music swelled, shaking the dust from the stained glass windows of St. Catherine's. This was the wedding of the year Nora Vance, the heiress to the Vance Industries fortune, marrying the brilliant self-made COO Liam Gallagher. It was a fairy tale, but as Liam took Nora's hand, his eyes met hers, and he leaned in to whisper his vow as he slid the diamond-encrusted band onto her finger. A single sentence meant only for her, but laced with a venom she never expected. He whispered his mistress's name. What happens when the I do is a lie, and the honeymoon is a declaration of war? Stay with me, and I'll tell you the story of a vow, a betrayal, and a revenge plotted in cold blood. St. Catherine's Cathedral was suffocating in white roses. The scent, thick and cloying, hung in the air, a symbol of the Vance family's immense wealth and influence. 400 guests, a meticulously curated list of New York's financial elite, sat in hushed reverence. This was not just a marriage. It was an alliance. Nora Vance, the 28-year-old daughter of the formidable Richard Vance, was marrying Liam Gallagher, the charismatic COO of Vance Industries, the man who had rocketed from the mailroom to the boardroom in less than a decade. Nora stood at the altar, a vision in custom Vera Wang. The silk was so heavy, it felt like armor. She felt her father Richard squeeze her hand one last time before placing it in Liam's. Richard's grip was proprietary, a transfer of assets. Liam turned to her, and his smile, the one that had charmed board members and disarmed competitors, was blinding. He was impossibly handsome, with dark hair, a sharp jaw, and eyes the color of the North Atlantic. He looked at her with an adoration that made the women in the front pews sigh. "My dearest Nora," he began, his voice practiced and smooth. "From the moment I saw you, I knew my life was changed." Nora's heart, despite her nerves, felt a genuine flutter. The past 6 months had been a whirlwind. The courtship had been intense, almost strategic in its perfection. The late nights at the office, the shared dinners, the proposal in Paris. She had resisted at first. She was a Vance taught from birth to be suspicious of charm. But Liam had been persistent. He seemed to see her not just the heiress. He saw her intelligence, her quiet ambition. He hadn't just courted her. He had courted her mind. The officiant Bishop Myers cleared his throat. "Liam, do you take Nora to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, forsaking all others, as long as you both shall live?" Liam never broke eye contact. His gaze was a tangible thing, a hook. "I do." "Nora," the bishop turned to her. "Do you take Liam?" She said her "I do." Her voice was clear, but her hands were trembling. Her maid of honor, Chloe Sterling. Her best friend since boarding school gave her a small, reassuring smile from the sideline. It was time for the rings. Liam's best man, Mark Dawson, fumbled slightly as he produced the platinum band. Liam took it, his hand steady. The bishop instructed, "Place the ring on her finger and repeat after me." Liam took her left hand. His palm was warm, slightly damp. The entire cathedral seemed to hold its breath. The orchestra began a low, delicate reel of strings. This was the moment. He lifted her hand, his thumb stroking her knuckle. He leaned in his lips close to her ear, as if to say something just for her, a private vow, before the public one. The microphone wouldn't catch it. Only she would hear. His breath was warm. He smelled of expensive cologne and faintly of champagne from the morning. He began to slide the heavy ring onto her finger, and he whispered, "You're mine now, Seraphina." The words were not a mistake. They were not a slip. They were a sigh of conquest. Nora's blood did not just run cold. It froze, stopping her heart for 1, 2, 3 beats. The heavy silk of her dress was the only thing holding her upright. The world telescoped into a single blinding point of pain. Seraphina. The name was a key turning in a lock she never knew existed. She didn't gasp. She didn't flinch. Years of Vance family training, of sitting through hostile board meetings with her father, of mastering the poker face, took over. Her spine stiffened. Liam pulled back, his eyes still bright, his smile still perfect. He clearly had no idea she had heard. He thought the whisper had been lost in the music, a private, triumphant thought that had accidentally slipped out. He had just confessed, at the altar, while putting the ring on her finger. Bishop Myers beamed. "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife." Liam's smile widened. He looked triumphant. He looked like a man who had just closed the deal of a lifetime. "You may kiss the bride," the bishop said. Liam cupped her face in his hands. His palms were still clammy. Nora looked into his eyes, searching for the man she thought she loved. He was gone. In his place was a stranger, a liar, a man who, in this moment of ultimate union, was thinking of someone else. He pressed his lips to hers. The kiss was a violation. It was cold, metallic, and tasted of ash. She did not kiss him back. She simply existed, a marble statue in a $50,000 dress. The applause from the 400 guests was deafening. He pulled away his face, the picture of bliss. He raised their joined hands. "Mr. and Mrs. Liam Gallagher." Nora smiled. It was the most terrifying, empty smile she had ever produced. It didn't reach her eyes. Her eyes, Chloe would later say, looked like a frozen lake. As they turned to walk down the aisle, the organ-blaring Nora had only one thought. A single crystalline vow that replaced the ones she had just spoken. "I will not cry. I will not scream. I will wait. And then I will destroy him." The Vance estate in Westchester was a fortress of old money, and tonight it was lit up like a beacon. A massive climate-controlled tent was erected on the great lawn, shimmering with crystal chandeliers and drowning in the same white roses that had choked the cathedral. A 20-piece jazz orchestra played. Liam was in his element. He moved through the crowd, his hand possessively on the small of Nora's back, accepting congratulations, his laughter booming. He was the king of the world. "He's a shark," Nora's father, Richard Vance, had once said in admiration, "and you, Nora, are going to give him an ocean to swim in." Now Nora felt like the bait. She smiled, she sipped her champagne, she nodded. Every handshake felt like a threat. Every congratulation, a mockery. Liam, oblivious, refilled her glass. "Happy, darling," he murmured, kissing her temple. "Ecstatic," she replied, her voice a perfect imitation of a bride. He chuckled, attributing her iciness to wedding day jitters. He was arrogant. That was his weakness. He had won. He had secured the Vance name. The COO title was now solidified, and he had a clear path to the CEO position when Richard retired. He had his heiress, and apparently he had Seraphina too. "Nora, you look breathtaking," a family friend gushed. "Thank you, Judge Peterson. Liam is a very lucky man." "Oh, I'm the lucky one," Liam said, squeezing her again. "Isn't that right, Mark? Mark Dawson." The best man approached them. His face was flushed with alcohol, but his eyes were shifty. He'd been looking at Nora with a strange pity all night. He knows Nora realized. Mark knows who Seraphina is. "To the happy couple," Mark said, raising his glass. His toast was weak, his hand shaking slightly. "To Liam and Nora." The first dance was at last, by Etta James. Liam pulled her onto the polished marble floor. He wrapped one arm around her waist, pulling her flush against him, and took her hand. "You've been quiet," he murmured into her hair. "Everything okay?" "Just overwhelmed," she lied. "It's a lot." "It is," he agreed, his voice thick with satisfaction. "But it's all worth it. We have the rest of our lives, Nora. I'm going to make you so happy." He spun her out, and as she came back in her eyes, scanned the crowd. She was looking for a face she didn't know. A Seraphina. Was she here? Was he that brazen? Was she one of the guests, a caterer, a +1? The dance ended. The applause was polite. Nora immediately broke away. "I need some air. Just for a moment. The dress—" "Of course," Liam said, his attention already snagged by a senator waving him over. "Don't be long." Nora walked, not ran, across the lawn, past the glowing tent, and into the dark, manicured gardens of the estate. She didn't stop until she reached the old stone fountain, its sound drowned out by the distant orchestra. She gripped the cold stone, her knuckles white. She still hadn't cried. "Nora." Chloe Sterling. Her maid of honor stood behind her, holding Nora's discarded bouquet. "You forgot this," Chloe said softly. Nora didn't turn. "Leave it." "Nora, what's wrong?" Chloe moved to her side. "You've been, I don't know, pale. Ever since the altar. Did you hear what I heard?" Nora's head snapped toward her. "You heard it." "I was right behind you," Chloe whispered, her eyes wide with horror. The music dipped for just a second. He leaned in, and he didn't say Nora. It sounded like Seraphina. "Please tell me I'm crazy." Nora finally let out the breath she'd been holding since the vows. It came out as a ragged, soundless sob. "He said it," Nora confirmed, her voice flat. He whispered, "You're mine now, Seraphina." Chloe's hands flew to her mouth. "Oh my God! Nora! At the altar!" "At the altar. What are you going to do? We can call your father. We can have him thrown out right now. We can get an annulment. This is monstrous." Nora shook her head, a slow, deliberate motion. "No. No." "What do you mean, no?" "You can't stay married to him." "If I call my father," Nora said, her voice dropping into a chillingly calm register, "it creates a scene. It creates a scandal. The Vance name is dragged through the mud. Our stock drops on Monday. Our competitors, Judge Peterson and Senator Croft, who are currently drinking his champagne, will see us as weak, unstable." "So you're just going to accept this?" Chloe was agreed. Nora turned to face her friend. The moonlight caught the cold fire in her eyes. "Accept it?" "No. I'm going to use it. He thinks I'm a trophy. He thinks I'm a naive little girl he's successfully fooled. He thinks he won." She straightened her dress, adjusting the neckline. "I've suspected something for months." Nora confessed the words, tasting like poison. Late meetings. Calls at 3 a.m. that he'd take on the terrace. A charge on his Amex for a hotel. A hotel I've never been to. The Hotel Elysee. I hired a private investigator last week. "You... what?" I was hoping I was wrong, Nora said. I was hoping it was just stress. I was paying him $2,000 a day to find nothing. But I just got my money's worth. He didn't just give me a motive. He gave me a name. Nora, this is insane. You should be in tears. You should be breaking plates. I am, Nora said, touching her cheek. It was bone dry. I'm just doing it on the inside. He made a mistake, a fatal one. He underestimated me. He thinks this marriage is his victory. But he just handed me the one thing I didn't have. What's that? Proof and leverage. Nora looked back at the glowing tent, a hive of noise and light. Liam was visible, laughing, holding court. I'm not going to be the humiliated wife, Chloe. I'm not going to be the victim in this story. He wants to play a game fine. He just married the one person who can ensure he loses everything. He didn't just break my heart. He declared war on my family. And the Vances, she said, her voice dropping to a whisper, have never lost a war. She picked up her champagne glass from the fountain's edge and took a long, slow sip. Now, Nora said, smoothing her dress, we have to cut the cake. The drive from the reception to their new penthouse on Park Avenue was a blur of flashing cameras and polite smiles. Liam, smelling of champagne and self-satisfaction, kept his arm draped around Nora. She sat rigidly, a perfect porcelain doll, her mind 1,000 miles away, running calculations. The penthouse, a wedding gift from her father, was spectacular. A duplex with 20-foot windows overlooking Central Park. The staff had already unpacked their honeymoon luggage, and rose petals, more white roses, were scattered from the foyer to the master bedroom. The moment the elevator doors dinged shut in their private vestibule, Liam's facade of the doting husband shifted. He didn't grab her passionately. He loosened his tie. God, he sighed, I thought your father's speech would never end. He loves the sound of his own voice. Nora slipped off her heels, her back to him. He's very proud of you, Liam. He's proud of the merger, Liam corrected, walking to the wet bar and pouring himself a whiskey. No offer for her. This marriage secures the Eastern Seaboard accounts. It's a good deal for everyone. Is that what this is? Nora asked, her voice quiet. A good deal. He finally seemed to register her tone. He turned, swirling the amber liquid. It's a great deal, and I happen to be in love with my new business partner. Or wife, I should say. He smiled, but it was the smile from the boardroom, not the one from their courtship. Are you all right? You've been tense all night. It's been a long day, she said, moving toward the grand, sweeping staircase. I'm exhausted. I'm going to take a bath. Now. He sounded annoyed. He set his drink down and walked toward her, finally attempting to be the groom. He put his hands on her waist. We're finally alone. We're married. He leaned in to kiss her. Nora turned her head at the last second. His lips landed on her cold cheek. She felt his grip tighten. Nora. I'm sorry, she said, pulling away gently. I have a blinding headache. The stress, the dress, I just need an hour, and some aspirin. Liam's face clouded over. It was the first crack in his perfect veneer. He was being denied. But he couldn't push. It was, after all, their wedding night. Fine, he said, his voice clipped. Fine. Take your bath. I've got a few emails to catch up on from the Singapore office anyway. On our wedding night? She asked, feigning disappointment. The market doesn't sleep, darling, he said, already walking to the library, unbuttoning his tuxedo jacket. And now that I'm family, The pressure's really on. Nora watched him go. He was already back to work. Back to the business. Back, perhaps, to her. She ascended the stairs. The master suite was a cavern of beige and cream. Her wedding dress lay in a heap on a chaise lounge. She walked into the cavernous marble bathroom, locked the door, and turned on the taps to the jacuzzi tub, the sound of rushing water a welcome shield. She didn't get in. She sat on the cold tile floor, her back against the wall, and pulled out her personal cell phone, not the one Liam knew about, but her private encrypted one. She had one new message sent an hour ago. From DC, David Chen, her private investigator. She opened it. It was a single file, audio clip M. Dawson, P3. She'd had Chen bug the groom's getting ready suite at the hotel. A long shot, but she'd had a feeling. She put the phone to her ear. The audio was muffled, rock music, laughter, the clinking of glasses. Mark Dawson slurring, "Another whiskey, Liam. You're a madman. You're getting married in 30 minutes. Liam's voice, clear, laughing. "It's winner, it's a mind for mine. Gotta to stay loose." Mark, loose man. "I don't know how you're doing this. I mean, Nora's great. She is. She's a good woman. But, Jesus, you saw Seraphina this morning." Nora's breath hitched. Liam's voice hardens. "Shut up, Mark. Walls have ears." Mark. "No, I'm serious. Is she okay with this? I mean, she's not going to do something crazy, is she? Like, show up." Liam. A low, dangerous chuckle. Sarah knows the plan. She's not happy, but she understands the long game. This wedding, this is the key. This makes me untouchable. Richard Vance's son-in-law. Once I have full control of the new acquisition fund, then we make our move. This, Nora, she's just the collateral. A very beautiful, very rich, very temporary collateral. Mark. And Seraphina's just waiting for you. What if you get comfortable, Liam? Comfortable with her. She's Ice Mark. She's her father's daughter. All business. It's easy, but it's not passion. Sarah is fire. This is just 6 months. A year tops. Then I stage a scandal so. Divorce. Nora take half the new assets from the fund I created, and I'm gone. Seraphina and I will be in Monaco before the ink is dry on the divorce papers. Mark. You're a sociopath, you know that. Liam laughing again. I'm a pragmatist. Now pour me that drink. I've got a wedding to get to. The audio ended. Nora lowered the phone. The roaring of the tub jets filled the silence. There was no pain now, no heartbreak. It had all burned away, leaving something cold and sharp. This wasn't a man who had made a mistake. This wasn't a man torn between two women. This was a conspiracy, a planned, meticulous financial attack. He wasn't just cheating on her. He was planning to rob her family blind and use her as the getaway car. A year tops, she whispered to the empty room. Collateral. She stood up, her legs steady. She looked at herself in the vast mirror. The tear-streaked, heartbroken bride was gone. In her place was the CEO in waiting. She deleted the audio file. David Chen had the original secured. She ran the bath, poured in the oils, and undressed. She was, after all, going to take a bath. An hour later, she emerged wrapped in a plush white robe. Liam was in the library, his laptop open, a fresh whiskey in hand. He looked up, his eyes hungry. "Feeling better?" he asked, his voice returning to its smooth, seductive tone. "Much," Nora said. She walked over to him, not in the way of a wife, but in the way of a predator. She ran a single manicured finger down his loosened tie. "Good," he said, reaching for her. She stepped back, a small, playful smile on her lips. "I'm still exhausted, darling, and tomorrow we have that flight to Bora Bora. We need our rest." She leaned in and kissed him on the forehead, a sisterly, dismissive kiss. "Good night, husband." She walked to the master bedroom, locking the door behind her, leaving him standing in the library. Confused, annoyed, and completely unaware that the game had just changed. He thought he was the shark. He was about to find out what it was like to swim with a killer whale. Bora Bora was a caricature of paradise. The overwater bungalow, the turquoise water, the private plunge pool. It was designed for intimacy, which made it the perfect battleground. Liam, frustrated by the headaches and jet lag that had kept Nora distant for the first 48 hours, was becoming irritable. He had married a Vance, but he had expected the woman to be part of the package. Nora, meanwhile, was playing the part of the slightly overwhelmed, deeply in love, new bride. She was affectionate in public at their private dinners, and when the staff was near. But in private, she was elusive. On their third morning, she sat on their private deck laptop open. "What are you doing?" Liam asked, emerging from the bungalow, tying the sash on his robe. "Just looking at the Q3 projections for the Singapore acquisition," she said, not looking up. "The numbers look soft." Liam frowned. "Nora, we are on our honeymoon. My one rule was no work, especially not my work." She looked up, feigning innocence. "I'm sorry. I want to be a good partner, Liam, in all things. I know how important this new acquisition fund is to you. I want to help." His expression softened. This was more like it. His naive wife wanting to be involved. What could be more perfect? "Darling," he said, sitting beside her. "That's sweet, but it's incredibly complex. Why don't you worry about which beach we're going to, and I'll worry about the EBITDA ratios." "You're right," she said, closing the laptop. "I'm being silly." She smiled, and for the first time she leaned in and kissed him. A real kiss. Surprised, he responded immediately, pulling her close. She pulled back. "But I am on the board now. Father insists I should at least try to understand what my brilliant husband is doing. Could you just explain it to me? The acquisition fund. In simple terms. And so under the Polynesian sun." Liam, in his arrogance, began to explain. He condescended. He simplified. And Nora, who held an MBA from Wharton, listened. She already knew from David Chen's initial reports that the acquisition fund was his primary weapon. It was a new subsidiary of Vance Industries, approved by the board on Liam's glowing projections, and designed to buy out smaller tech firms. It was also conveniently under his sole operational control. "It's just a pot of money," he said, "that lets me move fast. Buy a company before our competitors like Quantum Leap even know it's for sale." "Quantum Leap Holdings?" Nora asked, keeping her voice light. Liam's eye twitched. "Our biggest rival, aggressive, unethical. We're trying to crush them." Nora logged that. Quantum Leap. While Liam went for a swim, Nora got back on her encrypted phone. "Nora DC. I need everything on Quantum Leap Holdings, and I need a name. Seraphina. Find her. DC. Already on it. The name's not common. We'll have something in 24 hours. Enjoy the honeymoon." Nora closed the phone. She watched Liam swim. He was strong, cutting through the water. A predator. He was using her family's money to build a fund, and she was certain he was using Quantum Leap as a smoke screen. Or worse, as a partner. The reply came 22 hours later, while they were at dinner. Nora had excused herself to the restroom. DC got her. It wasn't easy. She's a ghost. Or rather, she's not who she says she is. The name Seraphina is an affectation. Her legal name is Sarah Jane Dubois. French, dual citizen. Holds an economics degree from the London School of Economics. She's not an employee at Quantum Leap. She's a consultant, one of the most feared M&A specialists in Europe. They call her the surgeon. She doesn't just acquire companies. She guts them, strips them for parts, and sells the scraps, leaving a bankrupt shell. Nora felt the blood drain from her face. This wasn't a love affair. This was a partnership. DC. New message. It gets worse. I ran her financials. She's not just a consultant for Quantum Leap. She's their primary shadow partner. And Liam has been wiring money from a Vance Industries offshore account, one you don't know about, to a holding company she controls in the Cayman Islands. He's not just planning to rob you. He is robbing you. They're in this together. They're using Vance Capital to fund Quantum Leap's acquisitions. DC. New message, attached photo. S.J. Dubois. From a conference in Dubai last year. Nora opened the attachment. The woman was striking. Not beautiful in a classical way, but sharp. All angles. Dark, severe hair, piercing eyes, and a slash of red lipstick. She was wearing a blood-red Armani suit. She looked like she could and would slit a man's throat and not spill a drop of wine. This was Seraphina. This was the pa Liam had talked about. Nora's plan had to change. This was bigger than adultery. This was grand larceny. This was corporate spotage on a massive scale. She walked back to the table. Liam was on his phone, a rare scowl on his face. "Everything okay, darling?" she asked, sliding back into her seat. He shoved his phone into his pocket. "Fine, just Mark, useless. He can't handle one simple transfer." "A transfer. Don't worry about it," he snapped. He quickly softened his tone. "Just work. It never stops, even in paradise." He's moving money, Nora thought. Right now. "Liam," she said, placing her hand on his. "I've been thinking. This honeymoon, it's lovely. But I'm worried about you." "Worried? You're so stressed. You're trying to manage this massive new fund all by yourself. It's too much. You need a co-signer, a partner, someone at home who can authorize things when you're in the air or in different time zones." Liam laughed. "A co-signer, Nora. The whole point of the fund is its autonomy. It's what gives me the edge." "I know," she said, leaning in. "And I want you to have that edge. That's why. I should be the co-signer." He stared at her. "You, me. I'm on the board. I'm your wife. I'm the one person you can trust implicitly. Think about it. It protected to. If anything ever looked questionable, having a Vance on the paperwork makes it unassailable. It shows the board this is a family venture. Complete unity." Liam's eyes, those shark-like eyes, narrowed. He was calculating. She wasn't wrong. Having her signature on the fund's charter would make it bulletproof. And what did she know? She was a socialite with a vanity MBA. She'd just be a rubber stamp. His collateral would become his shield. "You would be willing to do that?" he asked. "To be involved in the paperwork?" "I want to be your partner, Liam," she said, her eyes wide and sincere. "In everything. Starting now." He smiled, a slow, genuine smile of a man who had just been handed the keys to the kingdom. "Nora Gallagher," he said, raising his glass. "That is the smartest, sauciest thing you've ever said. When we get back to New York, we'll have the lawyers draft it immediately." "To us?" she said, clinking her glass against his. She drank the champagne. It tasted like victory. He thought she was giving him protection. She was, in fact, getting access. She wasn't just going to be his co-signer. She was going to be his executioner. They returned to New York, and Liam, true to his word, had the paperwork drawn up. Nora, Mrs. Nora Gallagher, was now a co-signer on the Vance Gallagher Acquisition Fund. Liam, in his hubris, believed he had just given his wife a shiny new toy. He held a private celebration at the penthouse, presenting her with a diamond tennis bracelet. "To my partner in crime," he'd toasted. "I can't tell you how much that means to me," Nora had replied, her smile never wavering. For the next 2 months, she was the perfect, supportive, and utterly clueless wife. She sat in on his home office meetings, fetched him coffee, and asked simple, unintelligent questions about the fund's activity. "What's escrow again, darling? What does leveraged mean?" Liam would pat her on the head, explain in simple terms, and have her sign the transfer documents. "Just here, love. My signature gives the authorization, yours just makes it official for the board." What he didn't know was that every night after he went to sleep, or more often when he claimed to be at a late dinner with the board, Nora was in her own home office with David Chen and a new hire, a forensic accountant named Julian Thorne. "He's brilliant," Julian said, his eyes glued to the bank statements Nora had scanned. "And he's a psychopath. He's not just stealing. He's building a bomb." "Explain," Nora said, her voice cold. "He's using the VG fund to buy tech shells, empty companies. He then has Quantum Leap, that's Dubois, buy those same shells from him at a 300% markup. He's using Vance money to inflate the value of his own assets, which he then sells to his co-conspirator. He's laundering your father's money, and Quantum Leap is taking a 10% consulting fee for their trouble. It's a closed loop. So the money is just gone?" "No, not gone," Julian said. "It's here." He pointed to a single massive offshore account. The Cayman account. It has $47.5 million in it. It's the master account, the one he and Dubois built together. It requires 2 digital keys to access, his and hers. "Seraphina," Nora breathed. "Exactly. But here's the kicker." Julian pointed to a series of smaller recent transfers. "He's getting sloppy, or arrogant. Look, he's been siphoning small amounts, 50K, 100K, from the master account into another account. This one is in Zurich. Sole signatory Liam Gallagher. He's not just robbing your family, Mrs. Gallagher. He's planning to rob his partner." Nora stared at the screen. The final piece of the puzzle. The audio file from the wedding. "I'm a pragmatist. He wasn't in love with Seraphina. He wasn't in love with anyone. He was in love with money. And he was planning to betray everyone." "He whispered her name," Nora said softly. "What?" Julian asked. "He whispered her name at the wedding. He's sentimental." That's his flaw. He thinks he's a pragmatist, but he's a romantic. He's so lost in his own story, the fire of Seraphina, that he thinks he can outsmart her. But he's also so greedy that he can't help but steal from the pot. He's going to get caught, Julian said. No, Nora said. He's not. We are. She stood up. Julian, I need you to find a way into that master account. A back door. A vulnerability. David, I need you to arrange a meeting. With who? David Chen asked. Seraphina Dubois. She's in New York. I saw her name on a flight manifest. She's staying at the Hotel Élysée. The same hotel from the credit card charge. Nora, that's not smart, David warned, confronting her. She's as guilty as he is. I'm not going to confront her, Nora said, putting on her jacket. I'm not going to threaten her. I'm going to make her a better offer. The Onyx Club was a dark, exclusive lounge in a Tribeca basement. No photos, no press. Seraphina Dubois was sitting in a corner booth, a glass of red wine in her hand. She looked exactly like her photo. Sharp, expensive, and dangerous. Nora slid into the booth opposite her. Seraphina didn't look up from her wine. I don't take meetings with the wives of my associates. It's messy. This won't be messy, Nora said. Mrs. Gallagher. Seraphina finally looked up. Her eyes were a flat, cold grey. You're brave. Or stupid. Which is it? I'm a businesswoman, Ms. Dubois. Or should I call you Sarah Jane? Seraphina's composure cracked. A tiny flinch, but it was there. Liam doesn't know I'm here, Nora said, getting straight to the point. He's at a charity dinner, probably with his best man Mark, who I'm sure is on your payroll too. You should go, Seraphina said, reaching for her purse. In a minute. I'm here to talk about the $47.5 million in the Cayman account, the one you're both planning to drain 3 weeks from now, just after the Q4 board meeting when Liam transfers the last $20 million from the VG fund. Seraphina froze. I'm not here to fight over a man, Seraphina. I'm here to discuss a theft. He's robbing my family, and I have a problem with that. He's not robbing anyone, Seraphina said, her voice a low hiss. It's business. Your father's company was over-leveraged. We're simply reallocating assets. You're a thief, Nora said simply. But you're a good one. He's just greedy and sentimental. Did he tell you he whispered your name at our wedding? Seraphina's mask slipped again. She was visibly stunned. Oh yes, Nora said, enjoying this, while he was putting the ring on my finger. You're mine now, Seraphina. He's a romantic fool, and a clumsy one. What do you want? Seraphina snapped. A new deal, you and I. Right now, you're set to split that $47.5 million. He takes his half, you take yours. But Liam isn't a good partner. Nora slid her tablet across the table. On the screen was the bank statement for the Zurich account. He's stealing from you, Nora said. He's already siphoned off $1.2 million. He's building his own nest. He's going to cut you out, Seraphina. He's going to drain that account, leave you holding the bag, and disappear. He's using you for your brain, just like he's using me for my name. He's a parasite. Seraphina stared at the screen, her face white with a rage that was far more terrifying than Nora's cold fury. She had been played. He told me that was a contingency fund for our lawyers, she whispered. He's lying, Nora said, and you know it. Seraphina looked up, her grey eyes like chips of ice. "What is your offer, Mrs. Gallagher?" "It's simple. My accountant, Julian, has found a vulnerability in the two-key system. We can create a third master key, one that supersedes your two. But we need your key to do it. You give us your key, we lock him out. Completely. And the money, the $47.5 million. Nora leaned in. We drain it. Tonight. We return $40 million of it to Vance Industries, making my family whole. And you get to keep the $7.5 million. Not $5 million, not half of $47 million. $7.5 million. Clean. Tonight. And you walk away. You disappear. Liam wakes up tomorrow, and you and the money are just gone. He'll be trapped. He'll have no money, no partner, and a very angry wife who holds his power of attorney on the VG fund. He'll have nothing. Seraphina watched her. This was a deal. This was business. "And what's to stop you from double-crossing me?" Seraphina asked. "Because I don't need to," Nora said. "I'm not a thief. I'm just balancing the books. $7.5 million is my gift to you. For your trouble. And for the emotional distress." Seraphina was silent for a full minute. She picked up her wine, took a sip, and set it down. "He whispered my name," she said, almost to herself. "The arrogant, sentimental bastard." She opened her purse and pulled out a small encrypted USB drive, her digital key. "My accountant is waiting in a car outside," Nora said. Seraphina slid the key across the table. "You have 1 hour. Transfer my share to this account." She slid a piece of paper with a routing number. "And Mrs. Gallagher, yes. When you ruin him, make it hurt." "I plan to," Nora said. She picked up the key. "It was a pleasure doing business with you, Ms. Dubois." The next 3 weeks were a masterclass in deception. Nora was the perfect, doting, supportive wife. She co-signed the final massive transfer of $20 million into the VG fund, the one Liam was planning to steal. "It's so exciting, darling," she'd said, signing the document with a flourish. "You're a genius." Liam, giddy with his impending victory, was more affectionate than ever. He bought her gifts. He took her to the opera. He was the man she'd first met, charming and attentive. He was also, Nora knew, frantically trying to contact Seraphina Dubois, who had vanished. "It's strange," he said one night, staring at his phone. "My main contact at Quantum Leap. She's just gone silent." "Oh, darling, I'm sure it's nothing," Nora said, applying her moisturizer. "Maybe she's on vacation." "She doesn't take vacations," he muttered, his first seed of panic planted. He'd been checking the Cayman account hourly. The money was still there. $47.5 million. He just couldn't access it. He assumed Seraphina had put a temporary freeze on it, perhaps as a power play. He was getting nervous. He needed to accelerate his plan. The Q4 board meeting was scheduled for a Tuesday. Liam had moved it up, claiming an urgent market opportunity. This, Nora knew, was his D-Day. He planned to use the meeting as a distraction. While he was presenting his fictional Q4 projections, his program would be initiating the final transfer, draining the VG fund of its new $20 million. Then he would deal with Seraphina and the frozen Cayman account later. The night before the meeting, Nora and her father, Richard Vance, sat in his study. She had finally told him everything. She had laid out the bank statements, the audio file, the Zurich account. Richard, a man who had built an empire, had sat in silence for 10 minutes, his face pale. He wasn't just angry. He was impressed. "You did all this?" he'd asked, his voice rough. "You met with this Dubois woman. You moved the $40 million. It's back," Nora said quietly. "It's in a new Vance subsidiary account, one only you and I control. As for the VG fund, it's currently empty. The $20 million we transferred last week, I had Julian move it to the new safe account. When Liam initiates his transfer tomorrow, he'll be trying to steal from an empty box." Richard looked at his daughter. The socialite was gone. The heiress was gone. In her place was a queen. "He's planning to walk out of that meeting, go to JFK and fly to Zurich," Nora said. "David Chen has a copy of his ticket." "I'll have him arrested," Richard growled. "I'll have him arrested in the lobby." "No," Nora said. "No arrest, not yet." "What? Why, he's a criminal. And he's my husband," Nora said. "A public arrest, a scandal. It hurts the company. It makes us look like fools. It makes you look like a fool for hiring him." "No, we can't have a scandal. We need a restructuring." "What are you proposing? Tomorrow at the meeting, I want you to let him give his presentation. Let him hang himself. Then I'll take it from there. But I need one thing from you. I need your proxy. My proxy, your voting shares, all of them. Transfer them to my control effective 9 a.m. tomorrow. I already have my own shares. With yours, I'll control 51% of Vance Industries. When I walk into that room, I won't be Liam's wife. I'll be the majority shareholder." Richard stared at her. "You're asking me to hand you my company?" "I'm asking you to trust me to save it," she replied. He was silent for a long time. Then he picked up his phone. "Get my lawyer on the line. I'm changing my proxy." The Vance Industries boardroom was on the 80th floor, a glass and steel cavern overlooking all of Manhattan. The board was assembled 12 stern-faced men and women, including Richard Vance at the head of the table. Liam Gallagher stood at the front, a picture of confidence in a $10,000 bespoke suit. He was electric. This was his final performance. "And so," he said, clicking to his final slide, "by leveraging the VG fund to acquire these 3 key tech startups in the last quarter, we have positioned ourselves to dominate the Asian market. Q4 profits from this fund alone are projected to be 80 million. The board murmured in approval. The numbers were staggering. They were also complete fiction. The startups were the empty shells he'd sold to Quantum Leap. "An incredible quarter, Liam," said one of the board members. "Truly." "Thank you," Liam said, smiling. "This is just the beginning. I'll need board approval to roll over these assets," and he was discreetly tapping a command into his tablet. "Initiate transfer." He was so focused on his screen that he didn't at first see the doors to the boardroom open. Nora Gallagher walked in. She was not dressed as a socialite. She was wearing a severe dark grey acris suit, her hair pulled back in a tight, merciless chignon. She looked like Seraphina Dubois, but with a better tailor. Liam's head snapped up. His smile vanished, replaced by a flash of pure fury. "Nora, what are you doing here? This is a closed board meeting." "It's all right, Liam," Richard Vance said. His voice was like iron. "I invited her." "You... what?" "Mrs. Gallagher has just been added to the board," Richard said. "In fact, as of 9:01 a.m. this morning, she is the acting majority shareholder of Vance Industries." The silence in the room was absolute. The other board members swiveled in their chairs. Liam's face went from confused to pale. "What is this, Richard?" Liam stammered. Some kind of Surprise. Yes, it is, Nora said, her voice echoing in the vast room. She walked to the front, taking a place opposite her husband. Mr. Gallagher, your presentation was fascinating. A true work of fiction. Nora, stop it. You don't know what you're talking about. I know, she said, that your transfer just failed. Liam's blood turned to ice. He looked at his tablet. A red notification, transfer failed, insufficient funds. How? He whispered. Good morning, everyone, Nora said, addressing the table. I apologize for the interruption. We have a slight change in leadership to announce. Mr. Gallagher, your Q4 projections are impressive, but you seem to have forgotten the $47.5 million you've already stolen in partnership with Seraphina Dubois and Quantum Leap Holdings. Gasps. Liam looked like he'd been shot. This is slander, he yelled, his voice cracking. She's hysterical. Richard, control your daughter. She's not hysterical, Liam, Richard said. She's just balancing the books. Nora nodded to the tech specialist at the back of the room. The main screen flashed from Liam's PowerPoint to a new slide. It was a complex web of wire transfers, from Vance Industries to the VG Fund to the Cayman Master account, and most damningly, to the private Zurich account. For the past 6 months, Nora's voice was calm, precise, and utterly devoid of emotion. Mr. Gallagher has been engaged in systematic criminal corporate sabotage. He has embezzled over $40 million, laundering it through shell companies created by his partner and mistress, Seraphina Dubois. Liam was hyperventilating. Lies. You have no proof. I have all the proof, Liam, Nora said. I have the wire confirmations. I have the encrypted messages. I even have an audio recording of you 30 minutes before our wedding, telling Mark Dawson that I was temporary collateral, and that you planned to divorce me in a year after robbing my family blind. Liam grabbed the edge of the table. But my favorite piece of proof is the one you gave me, at the altar. She turned to the stunned board. As he was placing the ring on my finger in front of God, and all 400 of you, he whispered, You're mine now, Seraphina. The room was silent. Jaws were on the floor. He was so distracted by his victory, Nora continued, so arrogant in his success that he confessed. To me, his bride. He's sentimental, you see. It's his flaw. Liam looked at the door. 2 very large security guards, flanked by David Chen, were standing there. You, bitch, he snarled. You'll find Mr. Gallagher. Nora said that the VG fund you just tried to drain is empty. I moved the $20 million. You'll also find the $47.5 million in the Cayman account is gone. Seraphina and I renegotiated. She was very upset when I showed her your private Zurich account. She took her severance and a flight to Zurich. The other $40 million is back in a Vance account. She clicked to the final slide. A bank statement. Plus $40,000, £1,000 hold. Liam Gallagher, Nora said, standing tall. As the majority shareholder and acting CEO of this company, so I am terminating your employment, effective immediately. You can't, he whispered. I just did. You are fired. And one more thing. I had our lawyers draft these this morning. She threw a stack of papers onto the table. Those are annulment papers, signed by me, on the grounds of fraud. You will sign them, you will walk out of this building, and you will never ever contact me or my family again. Or what? He spat. What you'll call the police. Go ahead. The scandal will ruin you. The stock will be worthless by Friday." "You're right," Nora agreed. "A scandal would be terrible for business, which is why you're not going to be arrested." Liam's face flooded with relief. "Instead," Nora said, "you're just going to be poor. You're going to sign those papers which include a non-disclosure agreement, so tight you won't be able to say the word Vance without a $10 million penalty. You will give up all claims to my assets, our home, and any company property. In exchange, I will not release this." She held up a USB drive to the SEC and the district attorney. You'd let me go. You'll be walking away with nothing," Nora said. "No job, no money, no Seraphina, no reputation. Every person in this room, every person in New York will know that you were fired. For performance issues. You'll be untouchable. You'll be ruined. But you'll be free." She slid a pen across the table. "Sign it, Liam, or I'll have the guards escort you to the lobby where 2 detectives from the White-Collar Crime Division are currently having a coffee." Liam stared at the pen. He stared at Richard. He stared at Nora. Her face was marble. He grabbed the pen. His hands were shaking so violently he could barely write. He signed his name. "Security," Nora said, not even looking at him. "Mr. Gallagher is leaving. Please ensure he takes only his personal items, which, as I recall, is 1 briefcase." The guards grabbed him by the arms. He didn't resist. He was a broken man. As they dragged him out, he looked back at Nora, his eyes full of a pathetic, desperate hatred. "I loved you," he whispered. Nora just sipped her water. "No, Liam, you didn't. You just loved the idea of winning." The doors closed. Nora turned back to the shell-shocked board. She smoothed her suit jacket. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice crisp. "Now, let's talk about the real Q4 projections." The official story was creative differences. Liam Gallagher, the wunderkind COO, had resigned to pursue other opportunities. The annulment was finalized in a sealed private hearing citing fraudulent inducement. The New York Society pages had a field day, but the truth, the real ugly multi-million-dollar truth, was buried. Quantum Leap Holdings, without its inside man and its shadow partner, fumbled. Their hostile takeover bid of a Vance rival failed spectacularly. 6 months later, they were under SEC investigation for unrelated stock manipulation. 2 weeks after the board meeting, Nora was in the penthouse library, directing movers. Every trace of Liam Gallagher was being removed. His suits, his books, his half-empty bottles of whiskey. "Where do you want this Ms. Vance?" a mover asked, holding a truly ugly abstract painting Liam had bought. "Donate it," Nora said. "Or burn it. I don't care." Chloe Sterling walked in, holding 2 large coffees. "The changing of the guard, I see." "Spring cleaning," Nora said, taking the coffee. "I just saw the new issue of Forbes," Chloe said, grinning. "Front page. Nora Vance, the Iron Heiress, reshapes an empire. That's a hell of a step up from the society pages." Nora smiled a real small smile. "We're restructuring the Asian market. It's a lot of work." "And you?" Chloe asked, her voice gentle. "How are you? You just detonated your entire life. Your marriage, the man you thought you loved." Nora stopped and looked out the massive window at Central Park. For the first time, she looked tired. "I cried," she said, softly. What? I cried. The night I hired David Chen. Before the wedding. I cried for a week. I cried because I was so stupid. I cried because the man I'd fallen in love with, the one who listened to me, the one who read my favorite books, he wasn't real. He was a performance. I was grieving a ghost, Chloe. She turned back to the empty room. By the time the wedding day came, she said, I was done grieving. When he whispered her name, I wasn't heartbroken. I was just furious. He hadn't just insulted me. He'd insulted my intelligence. She picked up her briefcase, now filled with her files, her projections. The wedding, Nora said, wasn't a marriage. It was a business transaction. He just misunderstood the terms of the contract. And Seraphina, Chloe asked, have you heard from her? Nora walked to the door, pressing the elevator button. I got a postcard last week, from Zurich. It just said, thank you. She's probably bought a villa by now. Good for her. And Liam, David Chen tracks him for security. He's in New Jersey, living with his best man, Mark, who was fired the same day. He's trying to get a job as a consultant, but his name is Poison. No one will touch him. The elevator doors opened. You know, Chloe said, you could have sent him to prison for 20 years. You let him go. Prison is easy, Nora said, stepping into the elevator. It's an ending. I gave him something worse. I gave him a life sentence of mediocrity. He has to wake up every single day for the rest of his life, knowing that he had everything, and he lost it all. To me. She pressed the button for the lobby. He thought I was his collateral, Nora said, as the doors began to close. He forgot. In a war, the collateral is the first thing you destroy. The doors slid shut, leaving the empty penthouse behind. And that, my friends, is what happens when a wolf in sheep's clothing tries to prey on a lioness. Liam thought he had it all figured out, but he made one fatal mistake, he whispered. He revealed his entire hand at the one moment he thought he was untouchable. Nora's revenge wasn't loud or tearful. It was cold, it was precise, and it was total. She didn't just break his heart. She broke his entire future. What would you have done? Would you have stopped the wedding? Would you have gone for a public scandal? Or would you have done what Nora did? Play the long game and take back everything? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. This story was a wild one. And if you want more dramatic, real-life twists just like this, make sure to hit that like button. Share this video with someone who loves a good revenge story. And most importantly, subscribe to the channel. I post new stories every week, and you won't want to miss what's coming next.